Why haven't you stuck with food journaling, right? That's the question I want to talk to you today about. Why haven't you stuck with food journaling? Because it's really great if food journaling, you've stuck with it. Like if you've been on this weight loss journey for any length of time, I'm sure you've stumbled across food journaling, whether that's keeping track of calories, whether that's points, whether that's grams of fat, grams of protein, what have you. Food journaling is great. And if you food journal, you're gonna see a decrease in weight loss or an increase in weight loss, decrease, increase. You're gonna lose weight if you food journal. That's why it's such an important part of most traditional weight loss programs, like Weight Watchers, right? Weight Watchers, they have you keep track of points, and you keep track of different points, and basically bringing awareness to what's going in your body, and that's really, really great. But why can't you stick with it? Because if you can stick with food journaling, like, great, fuck yeah. Like, pardon my language, but hell yeah. Great, amazing. If you stuck with food journaling for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, oh man, you're a rarity. You're a rarity. Because most people, and the people that I know, including myself, I really struggle with food journaling. And I think a lot of other people do too. I struggle with habit tracking as well. You know, I'll do it a little bit. I'll do it for like a week or 2 or 3. And then I just kind of like get bored of it. I just stop doing it. Has that ever happened with you with food journaling where you do it for a while and then, you know, just, like, this is working. Like, oh, good. Like, you're like glad, like, oh my God, I finally figured out a logical way. It makes total sense that I should food journal, and it makes all logical sense. Logical sense. We're going to come back to that. Logical. Stay tuned. We're going to keep talking about this in depth. It makes logical sense that you food journal, you lose weight, right? We get that. So why don't you stick with it, right? Why don't you stick with it? This is a really, really important question we need to examine in depth. And this is only for people that I'm talking to right now who have not stuck with food journaling. If you're one of those people that have done food journaling for over 3 years, 2 or 3 years, over 5 years, that's great. Wonderful. You're the rarity. I guarantee you're the rarity. A lot of people really struggle sticking with it. Why is that? What's going on? Why is it so hard to stick with food journaling? Why do I struggle with food journaling? Why do I struggle with habit things? Well, let's think real quickly about my definition of a diet. So my definition of a diet is something that you do for a short amount of time, right? Like you say, oh, I'm going to go on a diet before the wedding. I'm going to lose 10 pounds before the wedding so I look good. And then like the implication being after the wedding, you will stop being on a diet. So that's a diet. But a diet is also, I define it by when you're not in tune with your body. So basically when the emphasis of your weight loss journey is not in your body and in your inner dialogue, I would consider that a diet. Let me explain that a little bit more, because this really helps explain why you're not sticking with the food journal, because the food journal is intellectual. The food journal is in your left brain. The food journal is this logical thing, right? And it's very like food is millions of years old. Like when we were monkeys, you know, doing all this like crazy shit in trees and stuff. We didn't have food journals back then. We didn't have calories back then. We didn't have you know, weighing thing, like little things to weigh your food. We didn't weigh our food on little gram scales every freaking meal. We didn't write in little notebooks the time in which we ate and how much and how many points that is. We didn't have cell phones to go in and look up the amount of calories and points in certain foods. No, that all stuff is recent. That's thinking. If you're wondering why you can't stick with a food journal, it's because I don't want to say you're using the wrong part of your brain, right? Like, I don't want to say that. The wrong part of your brain. I don't want to say that. What do I want to say? I want to say be aware. I want to say be aware that when you are trying a logical behavior, food journaling, for example, very logical, very, you know, this time, that amount, this amount, XYZ, very logical. It's not your body. It's not your body. It's not your body. And what I teach people to do, for people who can't stick with food journals, for people who can't stick with a diet, again, if you can stick with a diet, great. If you can stick with something that you don't even consider to be a diet, and it's working, and it's worked, great. But I know that you're the rarity, if I'm speaking to you, but you're the rarity. Because food journaling is tough to stick with because it's left. It's like, it's too dry, right? When we think about how do you stick with food journaling, we have to really go and totally flip the script, right? Totally flip the script. I went to the Weight Watchers website, and I was looking around, and I've done my own research. I've talked to weight loss people who've been to meetings, and I do have to go to a meeting myself. I do have to go to a Weight Watchers meeting, but I've talked to people who've been there before, and what they tell me, one of the most shameful things in these meetings, and again, this might not be shameful for you, but for some people, the weighing in on Weight Watchers is incredibly shameful. Where you feel bad. It's like public shaming. It could be seen as public accountability, and that's great. If you perceive the weighing in as public accountability, that's great. That works for you. For a lot of people, though, the weighing in is very shaming because they didn't lose weight. They feel like their self-worth. This one woman I was talking to, she'd been a part of Weight Watchers. She would go on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. Never, she ended up talking to me because she was just ready to try something new at the end of the day. And it seemed like an approach where it wasn't about weight. Weight loss enlightenment, it's not about weight loss. You got to forget about weight loss. In my paradigm of weight loss, you got to forget about weight loss. If dieting has not worked for you before, it's probably because it's way too left-brained, it's way too logical, and you're not in tune with your emotions or your body. You're not doing that yoga, I like to say, of weight loss. So when we're in tune with our body, we can start to naturally do the right thing. Basically, it's more complicated than that. It's not just tuning in your body, but that's a huge part of it. Because what happens is when you get your and not having, paradoxically, sorry, I'm going to go back to that one moment I said earlier when she was weighing in, she felt shame, that like discouraged her. So she didn't stick with it. And that's the problem when you're in this left paradigm. When you don't food journal, you feel bad, right? When you don't food journal, you feel bad. You think you're a failure. When you don't lose weight, you think you're a failure. And that thinking part, the thinking that you have to do something, the thinking part, is a what I call a just do it paradigm. It's where you use your willpower, you use your concentration, you use your left brain to do the weight loss, to do the food journaling, to do it. And if you don't, you're a loser. You're lazy. That's the implication. Like this is your journey. You need to do it. The attitude is very discipline oriented. And if you look at how we evolved, we didn't evolve with discipline around food. A lot of it was a totally different paradigm, and it's a little bit weird to start talking about this paradigm, especially when you're just first hearing it. But if you have tried dieting before and you know that it doesn't work for you, that it feels bad, that something just rubs you the wrong way, then I invite you to really start looking into principles like intuitive eating, right? That's the word that comes to mind. Or just some of the content that I'm putting out there right now, where instead of following a external source, right, points or calories, these are external, these are ideas. Calories are ideas, right? Like, yeah, there's such thing as a calorie, it's a unit of energy and stuff like that, but like, you think about it. But when you go into the yoga of weight loss, it's much more about feeling how foods feel to you and how they impact you, and your hunger, like God forbid, why aren't we talking about hunger and fullness? And why aren't we talking about trusting yourself and trusting your body and trusting your inner voice and being calm around food? Food is emotional. Food is emotional. That's what I'm trying to get to right now. Food is emotional. It's something that is right brain. It's something that's right brain. That's why I've given up habit tracking, because I judge myself when I don't do it perfectly. But when I find habits that I like to do, that feel good to me, where I'm tuning into my body and I'm listening to what foods feel good, and most importantly, I'm undoing years of shame. So this is something that's so common when I help people. This is why I got into intuitive eating, is because for so many people, shame. There's so much shame around food, and so much shame around themselves when they think of themselves around food, because people perceive they have this voice in their head that is so shameful around food. And food is something to be feared. Food is something to be managed. Food is something to be, controlled and forcefully. There's not a harmonious relationship with food. It's very unnatural, and there's not a, it's not something our ancestors would have done. Our ancestors are monkeys. I don't know if our ancestors are monkeys. Monkeys don't calorie count. They have a different relationship with food, where it's much more energetically in tune. And so, the point that how I opened up this video was thinking about whether or not you should stick with your food journal, or whether or not food journaling is good. And so the answer is, if you are sticking with food journaling long term, I'm betting you've found something intrinsically motivating about it. And that's great, okay? That's great. Wonderful. You're the rarity. I've talked to, dozens of people. I've got 100% standing on Thumbtack, which is where I help people in this. I've talked to a lot of people, helped a lot of people lose this weight. And a lot of people, they don't stick with the food journal because it's not intrinsically motivating. Like if you gave a monkey a pen and said, hey, keep track of your food journal, he would throw that piece of paper right away. He'd go take a poop on it. He'd light it on fire. He would be so bored with that, the food journal. He'd be so bored, so he wouldn't stick with it. But if you're able to listen to your hunger, which is a natural thing, if you're able to listen to your fullness, if you're able to get out of the shame voice, babies don't have that shame voice. And, if you're able to get out of that shame voice and give yourself some time to discover a new relationship with food based on trust, not left brain, right brain, emotional, in your heart, in your gut. If you can develop that, you're going to stick with it more. And you won't need to food journal. And the reason I say this is because if you look at naturally thin people, I mean, not people that are calorie counting and thin, or obsessing about their thinness and thin. I'm just talking about people who are like, they're like, whatever. I'm gonna have some food when I want some food. I'm gonna have some dessert when I want some dessert. These people, and you're like, what the hell? What the hell? How can you be so carefree around food? How can you just have cake when you want it? Well, this person is in tune with their body. They aren't calorie counting. They're in tune with their body. That's how they're able to be naturally thin without all this extra stressful baggage. The thinking about calories and journaling and all this stuff is stressful. It's stressful. But on the other hand, you got, when you're in tune, when you're in the yoga they say, you got to practice to become young again, right? So when we practice this intuitive eating process, right, you become young again. Like you were as a kid. You were naturally in tune with your body. But then someone had to say to you, you got to look like this girl in the magazine. If you don't look like this girl in the magazine, you're a failure. Somehow someone communicated that to you, or the guy in the magazine. Somehow someone communicated that to you when you were a kid. And you said, all right, I can't trust my hunger because I don't look like that girl in the magazine. So I better go on a diet. I better manage my food because I can't trust my food. It's dangerous. And it's just, it's just all up in your head. You gotta let that stuff go. So No! I just broke my ring. Damn. Wow. I'm sad. No. I got this in Guatemala. So this is something I teach people to do, and when I work with them. We feel our emotions. We feel our emotions, and we name them. Sadness. We locate them in our body. Face. I'm a little bit embarrassed right now. I feel sadness in my face. Feel heat in my shoulders. Okay, so next step, we stay with the pain, because I'm oh man, I just where do I feel it? So I gotta locate this in my body. It's kind of shifted my lung area now. See how I'm tracking a physical sensation? I know this is totally switch topics, but now we're into the field of emotional eating. So emotional eating, you know, this is the root cause, and when you're more in tune with your body, you're gonna get into emotional eating, which you got to practice these skills right here, where you track, you identify pain, you track it, you feel it, you soothe yourself. I don't need soothing, I'm fine. But damn, I broke my ring. That sucks. Okay. I guess that's a video. I'm a little disappointed, but yeah, I spoke my truth. My ring is broken. Don't journal if you don't want to. Oh man. Okay. Peace.